and I aim to help you grow your potential by using the divine timing of the lunar cycle and manifesting your dreams into reality. So today I have a lovely guest with me, and this is Raphael. I will introduce him properly, bear with. So yes, Raph is from Reydiant Reality, and people who know him call him Rapha, and of course many know his name means God has healed. If you look at, well, I can't remember exactly what I'm saying now, but I do apologise. Okay, so his path to becoming who he is today, and his, I'm going to just have to skip to the end because I'm not very good at reading whilst being on here at this minute in time. I don't know why this is, but there we go. So Raph knows that everyone's destiny is a culmination of what's written in their stars, the life they lead, and the circumstances that shape them. He knows that the universe grants you the power to choose, and Raph chooses to be a guide and does this by helping you to change your tomorrow today. Finally got something legible out.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Do you know what's really funny? Because obviously we met in person at Frank's event, and it was wonderful to meet you in person. But that day when I had to read out my little spiel, what you just experienced there is exactly what happened to me on that day. I just could not, for the life of me, like, I was so weird. It was like I just couldn't get the words out, and my brain just wouldn't catch up to what I was reading. So I was like, okay, you know what? Just go with it. This is the experience you're meant to have right now.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about your chart and like dive deep into the description that I should have read out about you?
Oh, yeah. So, in terms of my mediums, I am an astrologer, tarot reader, and numerologist, and I also use energy work to help people. So in terms of my chart, I am an Aquarius sun, a Leo ascendant, and a Cancer moon. That is like my big three for anybody that would like to know. I am very proud of all of them, and I'm fully aware that they are quite an odd mix. But it works for me, right? Like, I think when I start to really dig into my chart and I understand it, I am very cardinal and very fixed. I'm extremely stubborn. I will stick with something until I get it right or until it's done. But I'm also very cardinal. So I tend to approach things like a bull in a china shop sometimes, and just go at it until someone, a mutable someone, will pop in and say, Raph, maybe there's another way to do this. And that's usually like a friend or a family member, somebody that will give me an outside perspective, and just really highlight to me where there is another option. And that's me sort of just being really honest about how I live my chart, right? In terms of my Aquarius sun, weird and wonderful, zany, extremely Saturnian, very Uranian, and all of that mixed in. So, and I enjoy that. My sun is very, it's a bit lonely because it's right in the center of Aquarius, but it's unaspected. So it doesn't have, it's not doing anything with anything else. Like in terms of a whole sign aspect, then yes, it is. But in terms of like a tight aspect, it's unaspected. So my sun really kind of digs its Aquarian vibe. My Leo ascendant showed up for me in my life, certainly when I was younger. I did performing arts for the longest time. I used to dance, I used to sing, I used to act, I used to do all of those things. And I had all of these delusions of grandeur of this famous star that I was going to be. And little did I know, I mean, in the background, I've always had a very caring nature, as people have explained it to me. I've always really identified with my moon in ways that just seemed very natural to me. Healing, empathy, Reiki, massage, all of those things were just things that I, really loved and was good at. I tried to follow that path on a university degree and flunked it twice. It was a very painful experience. Trauma for higher learning for the rest of my life. I'll never go back to it. which is why I've been really fortunate to study, astrology, because that's kind of how you want to do it. But yeah, I at the time, certainly when I was younger, if someone had said to me, one day you'll be using all of your performing arts stuff with all of your spiritual stuff, I'd have been like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. And here we are. So that's a little bit of a backstory. I hope that helps.
Ah, that's great. Obviously, you did mention that you wanted to be a star. Well, you are a star. You've got the star card as your sun sign, haven't you?
Thank you so much.
And actually, in a way, we do work with the wandering stars, the planets. So, yeah, we're trying to make sense of space, time, and matter, and put it all to a language that anybody could pick up and understand, because actually we're bringing it down to earth and making it practical in using any of the spiritual or healing arts. Then actually we're making a big difference in the world just by being us and showing up, and hopefully people see that and have more compassion for themselves and each other.
I love that. It's so perfect and it's so true. To take all of the theatrics out of it for a moment, at the baseline of everything that I do, it's really always to help. If I could ever say that there's something, when I was younger, I read a statement and I was like, oh, that sounds a bit like me. And it was, what is your mission statement? And somebody had written, saving the world one person at a time. And I was like, yeah, I like that. But as I matured and sort of grew into it, I realized actually this isn't about me. This is about shining a light in what can sometimes be a hard time for people. Life has its ups and downs, right? We all have our moments where we stumble and we falter and we need somebody to assist us. And for me, it was always, certainly as I matured into my path, what my understanding is now, I want to leave the world and people that much better than I found them. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I love the spiritual sciences. That's what I call them. Astrology, tarot, numerology, energy work, the I Ching, human design, they're all spiritual sciences in a sense. And being able to bring that out of a very lofty realm that's reserved for an elite few down to ground so that everybody can use it. In 2018, that was something that I was really trying to get across to people via my channel, and with all the interviews that I was doing at the time, is that whether you work at Tesco's or you study with monks on a mountain somewhere, it doesn't make you any less or any more spiritual. Your spirituality is intrinsic to who you are. And as long as you're weaving it into your everyday experience, it can and it will help you through your lifescape.
Yes. Also, this is quite a Libra thing to think about, actually. I was noticing that actually our wall colours are making up my logo.
Yeah, look at that for a synchronicity, right? That's brilliant.
Green, and I love green, but also there's my peach behind me and the orange and everything. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's brilliant. You could sort of put my little chimney in there as the pumpkin as well. I don't know if you can see that in the background. Yeah, I love it. That's brilliant. You've got a nice little synchronicity going on.
Oh my goodness. So I remember in reading your bio that you talked about things like dreams and weird obsessions and things. So what are some of the weird obsessions and dreams and things? And have they been quite prophetic, or have they drawn sort of more, I don't know, has it made some spiritual sense and meaning into your life? Or
Yeah, all of the above, absolutely. So the first ever sort of big spiritual dream that I ever had was, I was about 3 or 4 years of age, and I can still remember a lot of the elements of that dream to today. it had such a profound effect on me, and I've never really forgotten about it. So over the years, as I've worked with various different people on, you know, different things, I've asked them about different elements of the dream. I've had different elements of that dream show up in my lifescape. In terms of dreams in general, yeah, it seems to be something that has run in my family for a long time. And it's so my mother is a prophetic dreamer, and her father, so my grandfather, was a prophetic dreamer, and prior to him his mother was. So it seems to go man to woman and woman to man in our family. There's several. I can pinpoint at least 5 big dreams that I've had. Like, and you know, one thing that I try to say to people is prophetic dreaming is a deeply human phenomena. It's not something that is, you know, out there or reserved for just a few. It really isn't. Just like psychic awareness. And one of the examples that I like to give my students when I teach tarot is all of us, we all have psychic ability, just like we can all run, right? I can run. Put me next to Usain Bolt, I'm probably not going to win that, right? He's definitely going to win. But when you think about it, as long as you have the faculty and it works, you can work with it and you can train it. So if you've got somebody that's naturally very intuitive, very psychic, but has never trained that faculty, it's going to be, you know, it will be good, but it will be so-so, versus somebody who's maybe got a little bit of intuitive or psychic ability, but has trained that for years to really make the most of that potential. I see it the same with dreams, and you can see this in the collective whenever a big thing happens. 9/11, so many people had dreams around that. Big disasters, the tsunami that happened in Thailand. When you look at these huge events that happen, you will see that there is a spike or a surge in the psychic energy, and a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, I dreamt this before it happened. And, you know, I noticed for the big things, totally normal. But then there'll be other stuff like, you know, and I'll message family members and be like, oh, by the way, you were in my dream last night and this happened. I have one friend in particular who we don't speak very often, but we are close. And whenever I message her, she always says to me, what is it now? Am I okay? Is it the health? And we laugh about it. And I always say to her, no, it's just this. So yeah, prophetic dreams, you know, metaphorical dreams, it's all been a big part of my lifescape from very, very young.
Yeah, I do remember when I was a kid as well. I used to be really close to my little sister. I mean, I've got neurodivergence, so I'm dyspraxic. It's all about coordination and things. So I would find that sometimes she would say to people, well, what Emily has missed out from the conversation is this. And then everyone, oh, that's what she's talking about. Otherwise I think, why is everyone looking at me as though I'm on a different planet? And that's why they missed out a key phrase that would make everything make sense. But then the other weird thing is that if we were on holiday, sometimes we'd be having a dream and sleep talking. And in the morning, I'd say, did I speak to you in my sleep? And she said, I was having a dream about this. So I was having a dream and we were talking. And she said, oh, we were having a conversation. What? Yeah. But this is obviously when we were kids. I think sometimes when we're younger, we have more access to those because we're not clouded by the everyday runnings of adult life, I guess. It's just trying to work that muscle again, perhaps. I don't know what you think on this one.
Absolutely, 100%. Kids are great at this. They're great at astral projection. They're fantastic at remote viewing. And a big part of it is because you are so open. And also, it's like you say, you don't have the trappings of adult life. But I think the other part of it is when you're young, you don't feel ridiculed the way that you do as an adult. And, you know, certainly people of our generation, we came up under people that would say, that's not real. Or, you know, that's not allowed in our religion, or, you know, that's not, you know, so it's kind of been squashed out of a lot of people. And I think where we are really uniquely placed, especially in terms of our generation, we're a part of a wave of people who have really decided to reclaim their spirituality and say, no, there isn't anything wrong with me. This is a gift. and it needs to be honored and worked with and used in some way, shape, or form. And it's wonderful to see that. It's great to be a part of it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Where to go to next?
So in terms of things that I was obsessed with, I mean, certainly when I was a kid, it was anything magical, you know, pixies, unicorns, wizards, witches, anybody that had superpowers, you know, anybody that had something extra that wasn't, you know, considered normal or real was my whole thing. Like, you know, if I was playing cars with my with my siblings or whatever, I'd be like, my car can fly. But, you know, there'd always be something like a bit sort of weird and wonderful about it. And those, you know, the way that I see it is our spiritual gifts and insight, while it is something that in a sense, it's not that it keeps us separate from everybody else, but it's not something that a lot, you know, for the reasons that we've just discussed, for a lot of people, they're either afraid of it or it's been squashed out of them. And so people tend to, not so much now, but they used to kind of shy away from it. And I think when you have this added dimension to life, that's what it is. You live a much richer life. And I think what astrology and tarot and numerology have really helped me understand is it's not just random. There is a pattern to it. Even if we can't tell what that, you know, what is exactly going on every single time to pinpoint precision, you know, we'd all be billionaires if astrologers could do all of that all the time, right? We'd be billionaires, right? But truth be told, I think it gives us a framework for living and experiencing life that helps us understand when I'm going through the hard stuff, it's not personal. Yes, it's personal because it's my experience and how I feel about it is valid and important, but it's not that I'm being punished by the universe or something like that, right? We've got a way to explain the experiences and the phenomena that are unfolding in our lives. I think, you know, these things, astrology, tarot, numerology, my family and my friends would probably say those are the things that I'm obsessed with. You know, because they'll say, oh, you know, I had a really bad day at work today. And I'll be like, what was the moon doing? Let's have a look.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or I'll give them some kooky answer about their personal year vibration in numerology. And they're like, okay, thanks for that. I mean, they're used to me by now. And funnily enough, I think we also train people how to love and interact with us just by being who we are. Because now, even my sister, she's quite religious, spiritual in her own way, but she's a very, you know, she's very devout Catholic. But even now, I'll find like she'll message me or she'll be like, Raph, what's going on? This is, you know, it's you know, there's got to be something. And, you know, that's really endearing to me because I think now people understand, like, you know, we are about this. We're not charlatans that stand there waving, you know, sage about doing nothing. Like there's a real element to this about helping people experience better lives. And it's just really wonderful to see. It's wonderful to be a part of.
Definitely, yes. I was actually having a conversation with a friend yesterday. So shout out to Trina if you watch this. But yeah, so basically the idea being that when someone was saying to her that actually, no, all you're talking about is a load of rubbish. Yeah, stop being so stupid. You think, wow, how could your friend actually say that to you? And I said, well, maybe next time you could potentially talk about likes of, I don't know whether you know about him, but Robert Edward Grant and how he goes and looks at sacred geometry and the golden ratio, which links us to ancient structures like the pyramids and the petals in flowers and the ways that bees fly and everything, because actually it's all created from that hermetic principle of as above, so below, as within, so without, as the body, so the soul. So actually, it's not nonsense, it's the elements of life. And as we were briefly mentioning before coming online, even if we look at some podcast that talks about astrophysics, they say that actually even the smallest proton is connected to, I don't know, a wormhole somewhere, which all of it is actually the universe inside you. So we are created from the same molecules of life that may have been around for generations to come, and actually could have been some carbon somewhere in, I don't know, a fossil, or I don't know, a grain of sand. There's just so much that we are basically all part of nature, and there's no separation there, and it's not nonsense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I think you raise a really important point, is it really is all interconnected. And I think the more we start to understand that, the more we understand that actually none of it is separate from us, we really do start to move into a sense of flow. And I think even, you know, when you think about the super practical astrologers who aren't necessarily so spiritual, they'll have an energy about them that is easy, right?
Yeah.
And that's because they're in that flow of whatever the stars are doing and how it's unfolding. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the baseline energy that we see moving through, you know, everything from a rock right through to a person to a tree, it's all the same stuff. You know, the underlying fabric of the universe is one substance. I genuinely believe that. I think the only thing that I diverge in paths with like some of the New Age thought, is that we are not, you know, I'm going to say a really dirty word here, but we are not God. But we are a part of, we have a divine spark within us that is a part of that grand tapestry. And so the way that we're able to intuit or understand or move with or flow with things is because that spark within us is responding to and reading the sparks without us. You know, as without, so within, as above, so below, as the soul, as the body, right? So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's the only part that I sort of differ on from a lot of the New Age thought, but I genuinely feel that we are. What I really love as well is that science is kind of catching up to us, right? The modern mystics, the kooky ones, the witches, the psychics, the seers, the mystics, the soothsayers, the dowsers, everything that we've been doing and understanding for millennia, science is now catching up to say, actually, they've got something here. Maybe it's not as exact, or, you know, as the rules that we like to keep, conditions and all the rest of it, but actually a lot of this is real, right? They're vindicating us finally, which is very exciting as a thought process for me, at least, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the likes of Carl Sagan, who says we're all made of star stuff, but he doesn't necessarily believe in astrology because he doesn't realize there's a language perhaps it's nuanced in a way that he doesn't correlate with or whatever. But that's fine, as long as it's like acknowledging that actually there is something up there and there's something down here, and actually there's energy, and if everything is connected by energy, there's always going to be some kind of connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really all is connected. I mean, you know, one of the questions that you asked me was, what challenges have I faced in my personal or professional journey? Oh, so many. And this is where all of these wonderful experiences and spiritual sciences have really helped me understand myself and the experiences that I'm having that much more. So, oh gosh, I'm just trying to think of some examples. So, I actually predicted two of my grandmother's passing, both of them, and neither one of those was easy. So, and you know my channel, and you've watched a lot of my readings, and one of the things for me is, and there's this massive debate in our community, right? Like, you shouldn't predict death and you shouldn't talk about, and a big part of this for me, the way that I personally approach this, it's never to shock, it's never to upset, it's never to offend, it's always to empower. And as far as I understand it, is to be forewarned is to be forearmed. When you know something and that you know that the likelihood that this is going to unfold, when it does, it doesn't stop it from hurting any less, but it actually does lessen the blow. You don't feel so blindsided by it. And, you know, I've had several clients who I've made big predictions for like that, come back to me and say, you know, Raph, this was so sudden. And if you hadn't told me, I never would have had a chance to say goodbye. And the way that I see this, you know, it's never easy to say those kinds of things or to make those claims or those kinds of predictions. I make them because I genuinely believe that somewhere it helps. And because I've had that sort of proven to me from client work that I've done, I will never shy away from it. And, you know, on a personal level, I don't demonize death. I never have. It's a natural part of the experience of life that we have. We're born, we come into the world, we live hopefully a very full, exciting, sometimes very annoying life. We get old, you know, we complain that our bodies are, you know, getting rickety on us. And then eventually we pass into, you know, the beyond. So for me, even when it's sudden, even when it's hard, death is a very natural part of life. And I think, you know, being old and passing away, seeing a full family or people that you love, I think is a privilege. You know, when you think back to 200 years ago, you know, people passed away very early in life. We're living longer now than we ever have, a much better quality of life. Well, most people, and I hope that we all get there as a race to, you know, for everybody to experience that. But yeah, those have been hard experiences. And actually, I was just talking about one yesterday in a client session. When I was 15, so this links back to what we were talking about with dreams. It was my first ever big holiday. I was like, ooh, you know, I went away to Greece and I stayed with some family. And one night I was meant to actually go out with my cousin, but unfortunately I wasn't able to go. And that night I had a really, really horrific dream. And when I woke up, I was like, it was still very, very like early hours of the morning, but you know, I'm talking like cold sweats kind of thing. And so I went back to sleep eventually. And then when I woke up, I was told that my cousin had actually had a motorbike accident. And I remember running to the phone to call my mum and just absolutely sobbing down the phone. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. If this is what you're going to, you know, if this is what I'm going to see and these are the things that are going to happen, I don't want it. And I remember, like, I'm getting emotional now because I remember her saying to me, you know, Raph, we don't get to pick and choose. This is it. This is what you have, and this is how it's going to play out. And sometimes it's going to be really hard to see, but you have to know. And having that experience, I think, was a real kind of like, that was the first time that I thought, oh, maybe this isn't all fun. You know, up until that point, I was like, this is great. You know, like you can dream and then it happens. And all of, you know, up until then, I think I was very naive to the fact that this was something very real. And that for me was kind of like no, this is very real. And there are going to be times where you see things or feel things that you may not want or feel to or care to. And yet this is the path. I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure that there will be some takeaways in some respects that actually, there's things in life that aren't going to be comfortable, aren't going to be fun, and there are various different shades of life, because there's the light, there's the dark, and actually, if everything was light and peachy and jolly all the time, we wouldn't appreciate it as much. And to know that actually death is a part of life, it's actually recommended within many psychological models that were translated into nursing models. I mean, I have a background in health and social care, and
wow.
I still have a muggle job there. But within that, the activities of daily living, death and dying is actually part of that spectrum, which you'd think we don't all die of death on a daily basis, but actually there are cycles which we know about as working in astrology, that things do come to an end, but then from there's transformation and new life happens. But we also see this in nature as well. You think of like trees falling, or the moon cycle, for instance. There's obviously something is born out of darkness, like a seed planted into the soil, and we can manifest there. We can grow. We can try and see whether something that we planted is going to be what we think it is. I think Stormy Grace, an American astrologer, talks about how, you planted a seed, you wanted it to be a cucumber, but actually it's a potato. But you're still going to nurture that, because actually there's a shoot of life that's come from that seed. And it's still something you want to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was talking to Stephen Forrest, but I was thinking, this is quite funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually brilliant, and it's very true, right? Sometimes we set out for one thing and what we get is completely different. I can definitely attest to that in my career.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for people that are just starting out in their spiritual journey, whether it's professionally or whether it is just trying to find some more personal development in their lives?
Yeah, honestly, embrace it. That's, and that seems like a really easy thing to say, but in all truth, I think everybody at a soul level, I think we all know what we need. The life stuff and the conditioning and the societal norms and the religious hand-me-downs from our parents and our heritage and stuff, I think really block that. So if you are just starting out on your spiritual journey, take your time, really listen to yourself and embrace your journey. And when you feel ready, find somebody to talk to about what you think, about what you feel. And don't let anything or anyone tell you that you're not spiritual, because whether that's your job, that you swear like a trooper, that's me, right? Whether it's that you don't dress in a flowery robe and take pictures of full moons on Instagram, that's not what makes you spiritual. What makes you spiritual is your intrinsic connection with the universe, right? And your understanding that there is no separation. Embrace your path, listen to people that you feel resonate with you, and shy away from anything that you don't. And yeah, I think one of the two things that I'd like anyone to take away if you're just coming into your spiritual journey, three things actually. First, trust yourself, because at a soul level you know what is right for you. Two, embrace your path, like just come at it with an open heart and an open mind. And three, just give yourself the grace to know that it really doesn't matter if you are, whatever walk of life you come from, whatever your job title is, all of that stuff, that's not what makes you spiritual or not spiritual, as the case may be. All right, so yeah, just those are things that I would like the newbies to know. And I think when it comes to those of you that are just starting in your spiritual business, honestly, I have a funny story about this. I'll never forget my first ever professional tarot reading. I've been reading for a lot at this point for a lot of people, outside of it, but it was my first ever professional reading. So I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm totally ready. I'm, all psyched up. I blessed my cards and I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. And I'll never forget it, because when I laid the cards out, they were like the heaviest, the darkest. It was like death, the tower, the devil, the seven of swords, the 10 of swords. And I was like, okay, right. So that sort of wide-eyed, like, this is going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. That went real quick. And I remember having a split-second conversation with myself and tarot. And for me, I treat tarot as a person at this point. We have like a proper working relationship. We talk to each other. Sometimes, we tease each other. It's like literally, working with another person. And I remember like having this split-second conversation, and it was almost like I heard him say, come on, little one, are you ready? And at that point, I felt like, okay, this is, this is big. And it was like, you've got two options here, Raph. You can sugarcoat it and keep it all light and fluffy, or you can tell this woman exactly what you see and you can work through it. I chose the second path because cardinal fixed energy, hard-headed as the day is long, always the hard way. And I read for her, and at the end of it, I was sweating, and I just went, okay, I'm done. And she just looked at me on the other side of the screen and she said, thank you so much for being honest. And we talked for about half an hour, 45 minutes after that. And what's really interesting as well is I was completely booked all the days after, but I only had that one booking for that day. And it's like the universe said, you're going to need this time after to just compress, right? So cycles and patterns and rhythms. And we talked for about half an hour, 45 minutes after. And she, we really dug into what had come up and her experience and her history. And it was a really beautiful but scary initiation into professional reading. So if you're just starting out, and you get a first one like that, and it kind of maybe burns your fingers or your toes, and you think, oh, I don't know if this is for me, I promise you it is for you. And this might seem like a juxtaposition, but if you have a first reading or early sessions like that feel really hard, that is the universe and tarot telling you that they trust you. Earn that trust. That's my greatest piece of advice I can give to you if you're just starting out in your spiritual business.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely love that. Yeah, I remember my very first reading that I did was part of the first astrology training I did. And that went really well, actually. And she said, just remember to breathe. Oh, okay. So she was a Virgo, and she said, I don't know whether you've heard of this way of doing a breathing exercise, but basically taking 2 breaths and then 1 breath out, and you can sort of do a double sniff and no one will notice. And I think, that's really cool. But she trusted me with some quite complex situations she'd been in, through like alcoholism and lots of other things, and actually she was on the right path now, but it was nice to have the confirmation. And actually you'll do really well in the rest of your career, because I know this is one of your first readings. I think, that's really kind. She's coming in here being modest and kind and trying to support me while I'm supporting her and saying, well, actually, you've supported me in validating my previous experiences. Like, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But then I followed that up with my next reading, was from my level 3 of that training. So Deborah Silverman's School of Applied Astrology, which was actually a disaster because I had, it was Mercury retrograde. My internet was absolutely terrible. And the client showed up late, which meant we only had 10 minutes rather than half an hour, because at the end of that half an hour, the teacher was meant to come in and just sum up what had been said and anything else that she wanted to bring. But and so the client was late, so actually we only had about 10 minutes for me to talk to her. And a lot of the time she was quite anxious, and it was to a point where I thought, I'm not sure how much I can give her that is useful, because I might actually upset her further. So it was really tough to try and get anything useful in there. So then when the reading was done, and my teacher had come in after that, I said to her, I don't think I gave her anything meaningful. And she said, I think you gave her 2 words that were meaningful, but actually she wasn't in a place to listen. And she knew that the timing was such that actually there would be other people doing readings with other clients after her, and that actually she needed to show up on time. And when somebody does show up and they're not in a space to hear the reading, you did okay. I'm thinking, oh, thanks. She was like, well, actually, how can I tell and prove that I'm, okay at giving a reading and fits the criteria that they wanted? So starting off with Saturn cycles to prove timing, and then delineating a bit of the charts, and then having a discussion. How can I do all of that together and prove that to a teacher when the client's not showing up ready to receive it? So it was really tricky for that second reading, but Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well done for keeping your composure, though. You know, it's really, yeah, no, really, like for, you know, and holding that space for yourself and still being clear on what your objective was for the session, you know, and it's true. All we can do is deliver the messages. How people, and this is something that I think you learn throughout your career, right?
Hmm.
All you can do is deliver the information as you get it. What people do with it, where they go with it, how they receive it, that's all on them. And
Yeah.
in, you know, in the early sort of stages, because we do care, we do want our clients to get the most out of it. It is our work, so we do, you know, we have a personal stake in it. But it's not a reflection of you, right? As much as
Hmm.
you want, you know, the good stuff for your client, you can't want it more for them than they do.
No, exactly. I mean, I've had plenty of okay readings since that point, but at the same token, it's one of those that's really unforgettable because you realise,
Oh no,
oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I
how
have a
can I
few
hold
myself.
space?
Yeah. Oh, I have. Yeah, I have a horror story about that. I'll never forget this because it was 2020. This was in the height of the pandemic, and I
Mm.
had this one lady who just fired questions at me like I was a spiritual vending machine. And then we got to the end of the session, and she said, I have another question. And I said to her, no, you don't, because I have another client, so I need to go. So I kind of set that boundary like really firmly. She was like kind of a bit taken aback at that point because she just went for the whole hour, one after the other. And it was just like, okay. And at that point, I, you know, started to get a little bit testy myself because I was like, okay, you know, at some point you have to remember, yes, I'm here to provide you with a service, but there's a human on the other end of this service. So, you know, give me a moment to, you know, to do what I'm doing. And it, yeah, it was so funny. She was kind of a bit flabbergasted at that point. And I think then she kind of came to her senses and was like, okay, I see what, you know, I've just kind of gone at you for an hour. And it's like, yeah. But we have them, and it's all part of what will make you know this, right? These ones that you remember, they make you more resilient for the work that you do.
Yeah, true. um, let's think. So, oh, this is a good one. So can you tell me some things that you're most proud of within your professional and/or personal life as being in this world?
Yeah, I think at the moment, my, you know, in terms of what I'm doing with work and what I'm doing with my business, I'm very proud of my tarot course because I built it from scratch. It's something that I, you know, have put a lot of time and effort into. I've had a fair amount of people go through that and give me really good positive feedback. Some of my most proud, like the things that I'm most proud of, are predictions that I've made that have come to pass. I've had six at this point births that I've predicted, including two for women. One she'd been having IVF and she just wasn't. And I remember saying to her really clearly, I'm telling you, you will conceive, but it will be naturally. Stop spending money on IVF. And she was like, oh, you know, I don't know. And anyway, so she went away and she came back, and that was that. And I was just really, really happy for her. And I'm really proud of that because for me, it was something that I saw really clearly being the case for her. So it was like, you know, having that level of like complete trust that it was going to happen because it was like a really strong feeling. And then having her come back and validate that, that was beautiful.
Hmm.
I have another lady, I would never forget this one because I remember saying to the lady that I read for, she said, you know, my daughter is worried about her age and she doesn't know if she's going to meet anybody and ever have children. And I said to her, don't worry, your daughter's going to meet a really wonderful Cancerian male. And she will have she'll be pregnant with her first child with that guy in July. So she went away. I didn't hear from her, and 2 years later, she came back to me and she said, "I just want you to know." And I'd actually said to her, I remember saying to her that yeah, that she would be pregnant in the July in Cancer season, and it wouldn't be long either before or just after the guy's birthday. So this woman comes back and she says to me, I just want you to know everything that you told us was right. It was just 2 years out. And I was like,
Ah.
you know what? I'll still take it. That works for me, right? We can't be precision on the time on every time. But yeah, that really sticks out for me because I remember chuckling about it. But yeah, I've predicted several births and pregnancies for people, especially for people that seem to be having trouble conceiving. That seems to be, maybe it's something about my energy or I don't know. And in my course, my tarot course, I'm very proud of that. Just trying to think if there's anything else. In terms of the things that people come to me a lot for, it tends to be career. I usually get the people who are going through a career transition. They're not sure about, do I study? Do I do this? Do I up level? Do I, stick with my day job or start my business? Those tend to be the people that I really, draw a lot of the time. And I think it's because at that point, they want someone that's quite sort of, that cardinal fixed energy is what they need, right? To say, okay, like, this is what's good, this is what's not, do what you want with it. So yeah, those are the sort of people that I attract, I think, with work.
So I'm interested actually, is there so when you've been making some of these predictions, what's actually guided you to some of them? Has it been the tarot? Has it been the astrology? Or is it just intuition? Or is it kind of a combination of them?
Yeah.
And the numerology as well.
Oh. Yeah, at different points it will be all three. So the lady with the Cancerian husband, that was purely tarot. The lady with the IVF, that was purely instinct and intuition. And it was so strong. It was like a gut, visceral, like, stop spending your money on this because you are going to conceive naturally. And I remember she was like, I don't know, Raph, I just, and I was like, no, I won't hear it. And I wouldn't listen. When it came to pass, we were both like, and that's what I think, much like yourself, actually, I think at this point, even, I've been doing this now 8 years professionally, I'm still now just as in awe as when people come back to me and say, oh my gosh, you said this would happen and it happened. And I'm like, this is amazing, right? I'm still as awestruck as they are. And I think having that still at this point is a really wonderful thing.
Yes, that's really weird actually. But I was about to, when you prepare things before you go on live, you think, I need to mix up my vocabulary a bit because I keep calling people amazing and wonderful. And the word that came to mind when I thought of you was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And then it's like, there we go. There's a synchronicity.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it earlier.
Brilliant. I love that. That's great. That's your intuition firing up.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a few songs come through as well, but I'm thinking, no, don't just sing along. I like when you were talking about, actually, why not? Why the hell not? So when you were saying about that tarot reading and how a load of things just came through when you were doing the initial one that scared you and you thought, well, actually, there's a little voice telling me that actually you need to do this. Well, the song that came through was Run to the Hills. Run to the hills, run for your life, etc. Oh yeah. Right. So I'm guessing, like, over the years we've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but as far as business growth is concerned, have you found that actually you've organically just grown through word of mouth and your channel exploding and all these things, or have you sort of targeted marketing and whatever else? How have you gone about it?
Never run an ad.
Wow.
When I started my YouTube channel, I made myself a solemn promise that is now biting me in the butt. And my fixed nature is kind of in the background going, yeah, we're sticking it in. And, my saner head is like, and it's stopping you from growing to your next level. So when I started my channel in 2016, I said to myself, I'm going to hit 100,000 subscribers without running any ads or marketing or doing any gimmicks or anything like that. I couldn't if I tried. It's just not me. It doesn't work. When I try to sell people things and do all of that, it just comes across as like Raph's being weird. What's going on? Right? So I learned that really early on. So now I'm just like, I don't do it. And with the YouTube side of things, for yourself and anybody that's listening after the fact, consistency really is the key. It's so horrible to hear because you're like, oh, that's such a cliche. But the truth of the matter is, it is just that consistency, showing up for your community time and time again. And, you know, in terms of like being able to give that consistency, switch it up for yourself. Keep it fresh. Don't just make things that you think people want from you. Make things that you're really excited to bring people, because that's what's going to attract people to you. Because when you're excited about it and you love it and you get fired up like a big kid, like I do, that's when people are like, oh my gosh, yes, you know, like they switch on to that and they can feel it from you, right? So don't chase this, like you've got to be authentic. Be authentically yourself. That's it. That and the consistency with YouTube I have found has brought me here. Collaborations like this are absolutely key as well. Do as many of them as you possibly can. At this point, I'm on like just under 96,000, and my heart and my soul and my integrity are like, you said 100,000, you can't run any ads yet, so you just gonna have there. And I'm like, oh, but you know, like I'm ready for more now. And you know, truth be told, I've seen people who have only had channels for 2-3 years hit incredible numbers with ads and you know all of that stuff. I haven't, just because like I say, you know, I set myself that target. I may, you know, look at that a bit more from a business perspective, because you know when you're in the spiritual world, business doesn't necessarily come so easy. You know, you learn a lot of that stuff on the job. I speak for myself. I know I have. In terms of where I would like to take it, or the expansion. Oh, and to answer one of your questions, how do you manifest your goals and dreams into radiant reality? I love that. It's such a good question. And I'll be honest, one of the things that I am obsessed with and have been, this is Frank's fault, is electional astrology. I'm obsessed. And I think because of my cardinal and fixed nature, I have this really like, I'm like, oh, finally my OCD is good for something, right? It's that hyperfixation on the detail is finally paying off. But I love doing that for people. It's, and you know, and now, as I say, even friends and family are like, I need to send this letter, or you know, I've got this thing coming up, and I'm like, no problem, I'm on it, and I'll find them like a time and a date, and you know, they understand that it is a work in progress. I can only give you the time. It's going to be what it's going to be ultimately, right? But I love electional astrology. Like that is an obsession of mine. Yeah. So in terms of growing it, yeah, I think I feel like I'm ready for the next level. And I think that's just more of what I'm doing now, but also more sort of public speaking. I would really like to give talks, you know, hold or attend live events. I want to do more of that moving forward.
Yeah. Wow. Two songs, Eye of the Tiger and one about Eye of the Storm. Something like, how's it go? I'm going down to the eye of the storm. Don't worry, I'll keep you warm, or something like that. I can't remember.
Ooh, who's that by?
No idea.
Okay, so the Eye of the Tiger, absolutely. I love the Creed films, which is like the next version of Rocky. I'm absolutely obsessed with them. They're like one of my inspirational films to go to. So yeah, Eye and the Tiger is iconic. You can't not love it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, yeah, could you tell me a little bit about how was the experience of interviewing Frank and also Heather Elland from Medical Astrology thingy? I've totally forgotten the name of her channel.
So I have been so fortunate in my studies, in my work, in my career, having worked with Heather on several projects has been brilliant. I really love the dynamic between us because it just works and it flows. She's brilliant at what she does. And actually, I would say her and Frank are to blame for my electional obsession because they're both really good at it. And watching them work that has been like, it's fascinating to me. It's been wonderful to work with Heather. It's been a while, actually. Studying with I studied with Frank first. He's my first astro parent, right? And he's the LSA was my very first sort of formal astrology education. Up until then, I was just kind of self-taught with books and anything that I could get my hands on. Obviously, I studied under Richard Swatton as well, who is another just incredible human. Some of the stuff that I've seen Richard do in class is wizardry, quite frankly.
I know.
Yeah, it's incredible. And there's one experience that always sticks out that I remember. This was like in my first year with the LSA. I remember him giving a talk, and just as he was talking about Leo, he was saying, and there can be like a tendency to be late and stuff, and this, that, and the other. It was really funny. And this girl walks in, like a fellow student. She walks in, and she's like, "I'm so sorry, I'm late." And he went, "Do you have Leo placements?" And she was like, "Yeah." And he goes, we were all like, "Ooh!" And he said, "Have you got something yellow or orange in your bag?" And she was like, her face just went like really like this. And she pulled an orange out of her bag. And he went, "And there's the sun." I was like, it was just incredible. Like, my mind was absolutely blown. Like, wizardry level stuff. Richard is phenomenal. He really is. Studied with them. From there, I then studied with Adam Ellenbass, who used to be a tutor barber, and he is an ancient astrologer. It's very much Hellenistic, the ancient techniques. Very fortunate to have worked with him. That was phenomenal. And then obviously having Frank on my channel, I was just like, okay, well, I've peaked now, so I might as well just quit. And I had a feature on Kelly Rosano's channel, which was a huge highlight of my work on YouTube. And then I had another on Nadia Shah's channel at the end of last year, which again, just I feel like that's it. There's nothing else to do now. I did want to say something that we talked about earlier, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. As Jupiter is about to go retrograde in Gemini, and you have Gemini placements, I'd really like you to pick that book back up. I think it's the time.
Yeah.
A really strong feeling, and I wanted to say this to you earlier, and now that we're here, it's kind of like there, and I'm like, okay, fine, yes, I will tell her. So yeah, I think it might be the time.
Yeah, so what Raph is referring to is my tarot and astrology book, putting the two back together basically, and trying to show the differences and things, and having nice fancy illustrations, but also delineating it to a point where hopefully people can understand if they are in the tarot world, if they're in the astrology world, or if they're in neither, and think that actually this might be an interesting way of looking at spirituality.
Yes. Awesome. Okay.
So is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about, and tell us details of your courses and things that you've got running?
Yeah, so At the moment, I offer various different sessions, which you can find on my website, which is reydiantreality.com. I also offer a lunar circle, so it's called the Lunar Lacuna. And I actually got the name or the word lacuna from, I don't know if you've ever seen Sense8 on Netflix.
No.
You're going to love it. I mean,
Okay.
like, you're really going to love it. Check it out. It's really out there. It's by the creators of The Matrix. But it's so good. Like, it's so, so good. And I remember hearing that term and I was like, what does that mean? Because, you know, when you hear something and it really resonates with you and you're like, okay, there's clearly a message there somewhere. And it means the cradle. And what I wanted to create was a way to tap into the moon cycles for manifesting, but also to add an energy work component to that. So it's not just, you don't just read a bunch of intentions and hope for the best. You're actually working with that lunar energy, preparing for when it comes in, and then actioning what comes up around that lunation. And so far, it's been brilliant. You know, we meet every fortnight. Obviously, I do this at the quarters, the quarter squares, so the first and the last quarter, so that they've got like a week to action everything that I give them.
Yeah.
And the results that we're getting, and even just the way that people feel more attuned to the lunar energies is wonderful. So that's something that I'm running at the moment. It will be going until March, and then after that, I think I'm going to review as to whether we continue or I turn it into something else. But the next courses that I will be running will be in the new year. So I've got my tarot course, and my students have been haranguing me for a long time saying they want level 2, and I'm almost done with that. So next year you'll be able to take level 1 and level 2. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with what I offer.
Brilliant. Wow. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you, Raph, and you're welcome to stick around behind the scenes if you want to for a bit. But is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, this has been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I just waffled on about myself for God knows how long, which my Leo ascendant is very happy about, obviously.
Yay!
But yeah, other than that, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's been wonderful to be on your channel and on your show. I'm definitely going to share this to mine so that everybody can watch. And yeah, it would be great actually if at some point I could get you on my channel as well. We can reciprocate those moments of interaction. You know, as a community, astrology, tarot, numerology, energy work, all of this weird and wonderful stuff. We are a community, and I think it's really important to build connections. So yeah, it would be wonderful to have you on. If you guys are out there watching, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, because Emily really does work a lot at what she does, and she's actually very good at it.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, I will wrap up on that very beautiful note. Thanks again, Raph.
Thank you so much.